devil is your only friend now. White sides, oh white sides, they're never gonna keep you on the ground. It started out so subtle, with daydreams in your head. One day you'll take a rocket to the moon. With not science or religion, what I can offer you instead is gonna get you on the front page of the news. White sides, oh white sides, the devil is your only friend now. White sides, oh white sides, they're never gonna keep you on the ground.
I had a near-death experience when I was 12, and we could talk about that someday. But yeah, definitely, I think there's more to reality than what we see, touch, taste every day. Exactly what that is, it's kind of elusive. I don't know.
Yeah.
But maybe that's why I like conspiracies. Because I'm open to that elusive stuff. So
some of the, I mean, we're talking Jack Parsons today. Some of the accounts in this story are like, oh, that satanic cult stuff is a bunch of malarkey.
Well, that's why I thought it'd be good to start there, is because, yeah, you kind of look at it and you go, it kind of looks like maybe he did make a deal with the devil and maybe it actually happened.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then you think, well, you know,
it's not supposed to work, but it kind of seems like maybe it did.
And, careful what you wish for.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And just like it might go if you made a deal with the devil,
kind of worked out that way.
You meet a bad demise. Yeah.
All right. So welcome to the Conspiracy Dad podcast. My name is Dante. This is Mr. Dave. And we're so happy you guys are here. We're having a good time, getting a lot of views. We're working on, there's lots to work on. We've had a lot of people to ask about merchandise. It's in the works, meaning it's in here. It just hasn't actually, I haven't had time to get it out there yet, but I do want some Remember Tusco shirts. I want some, hats. I don't know. It's a good logo, Conspiracy Dad. We'll try to get it out there more, but keep in touch. If you're new to the channel, to the podcast, please like, subscribe, anything you can do to promote us. If you can leave a review on iTunes, that's always helpful. Even better if it's a positive review, and tell us what you're interested in. A lot of people have sent in. They'll send me notes like, "Are you going to do one on the moon landing?" It's like such like a. Do you know anything about? Yes, of course. Like, why would you? How could you have a conspiracy channel and not talk about the moon landing? Or the same thing. Are you going to do a 9/11 episode? It's our bread and butter. Like, we'll get there. We're just waiting until we have a little more views to get there. So,
I can only look up so many kooky things in a week.
So this week we're talking about the very brilliant, strange, possibly evil Jack Whiteside Parsons. And if you don't know who he is, his original name was the coolest. I mean, he changed his name because his parents got divorced, and his mom changed it back to to Jack because she didn't want to remember the husband, I guess. But his original God honest name was Marvel Whiteside Parsons, which is I don't know how you show up on a playground and not be the coolest kid if you're Marvel.
Yeah.
Can you imagine meeting a Marvel at school? Hi, I'm Dave. Nice to meet you. What's your name? Marvel Whiteside Parsons.
It sounds like a Coen Brothers character name. Yeah.
So cool. So he changed it to, which still Jack Whiteside Parsons is great He just
Pretty good.
sounds like a movie star or a comic book character or like maybe a guy who's going to make rockets and fly to the moon, you know?
Maybe.
And he was the Rocket Man, the original Rocket Man before, who was that? Elton John was a Rocket Man?
Mm-hmm. Well, he's the artist that wrote the song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he just sang it. I don't think he wrote it. I don't think
Oh,
Elton
that's
John
right.
wrote,
He had
wrote any of his songs.
Yeah,
He
he
had a
had
writing guy.
like a pen pal buddy that basically just mailed him the stuff.
Now he performed the hell out of that stuff,
yeah.
but I don't think he wrote much
That
actually.
particular one I thought was a little more autobiographical. Rocket Man,
Yeah.
like him touring and
Have you ever watched William Shatner's version of that?
yeah.
That's the best.
Flying up here alone.
The 70s was a gas. That's what they'd say. It's just a gas, man. Yeah. So if you don't know that, check out William Shatner doing Rocket Man. But Jack Parsons was the original Rocket Man and goes way back before that. He was in his prime making rockets in the 1930s, I believe.
Mhm.
That kind of when his
Yeah.
But he started out really, really young, like brilliant kid from a wealthy family were they in Pasadena?
Yep.
And as young as the age of 15, he was just fascinated with rockets.
Mhm.
And before you go in the story, you kind of have to set the stage to understand back then, rockets were ridiculed.
Right.
So
yeah.
in the scientific world, in the aeronautical world, and like if you were going around talking about making rocket ships to go to the moon or to even just to go to space, that was ridiculed. And they didn't think the physics of it was possible. You were a kook. It was like talking about UFOs. They said you were crazy. And so to be at a young age and to be obsessed with that, you'd have to be thinking outside the box, maybe a weirdo, maybe not,
Yeah, some of the conversation I heard was, given that he came from a place of privilege, it kind of set him up to like not put boundaries around ideas sometimes, like when you don't want for anything, there is a lot more kind of just there's a lot more possibility.
Yeah.
Why can't I have a rocket that takes me to space? I get a limousine to take me to school.
Yeah.
I get to wear a suit everywhere I go. I get to do
the rest of us poor Irish were just, meat and potatoes.
But I mean, some of these books you read about some of the more, ambitious entrepreneurs, it's this mindset of like, opportunities abound, right?
Yeah. Or if you listen to like great musicians or great writers or actors, a lot of times you'll hear this kind of like, oh, I was just too foolish to know I couldn't do that. You know what I mean? And almost like they were like, of course I'm going to be a rock star.
Yeah.
And then later as an older rock star, they realized like how strange that is. And like, well, I was kind of lucky I made it as a rock star because most of them don't, know, but somebody's got to make it. So he was making rockets, and he was, I don't know if I know you pulled up some of a timeline from him, but maybe take it from there where the early history of, I mean, apart from being brilliant, he was introduced to the whole occult, devil worship, Satanist stuff at a young age. I mean,
that's right. Yeah, there's he's quoted as saying that he tried to like summon Satan around 12 or 13. He calls it a fiasco.
Yeah.
And it sounds like at face value, it sounds kind of dismissive, like, oh yeah, that fiasco. But the way that I've heard it referred to is almost like it scared the pee out of him a little bit. So he took a break from the Satanism for a few years. And then once he got like college age, he gets invited to the Agape Lodge, which was kind of like the present day cult of the time.
Yeah. But that's a strange.
Yeah. And I don't.
13, 14 and going like, man, I want to go to space. I know what I'll do. I'll summon Satan to come up from hell and tell me how to make a rocket.
I didn't make the connection that that's exactly why he tried to summon Satan. I just thought, well, he just happens to have interest in both of these things. And he's into explosions, and he also thought, why not try and get
that
Satan?
Reminds me Yeah, but that's such a strange. Wouldn't you ask God to help you make
Yes.
rockets?
Oh,
like
man.
that reminds me of like the Norm Macdonald joke about religions. Did you ever hear that? And he's like goes like, oh yeah, you know, people are always arguing about this religion, that religion, and this one's true, that one's not true. And he's like, it seems to me there's only one religion that he's like, you know, it's not
Oh, right,
true.
yeah.
And it's the Satanists who claim to not worship God.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like, well, why would you make a deal with the devil? And
Yeah. Almost like, hey, what do? I'm a loan shark. And then you go, can I borrow $20? Like, of all the people.
yeah, or it seems like, yeah, just a strange place to start. Like, what makes you think the devil knows how to make rockets? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought. Anyway,
I just think about myself at that age, and I was afraid to even think about Satan at the risk of him just possibly showing up. Who knows?
Yeah.
Right? Like, don't play with that fire. So yeah, it's a bold move
it's a bold move, Cotton. See how it plays out. So at a young age, there's some brilliant stuff happening and some strange stuff. I mean, you put your kid in therapy if you walk in on a seance or something. It's
yes. Yeah.
like, hey, son, what are you doing? Talking to the devil.
Yeah, that's not
good.
That's not a regular boys will be boys.
It's a departure from normative behavior.
That's
for
exactly
sure.
what that is. Yeah. Now him playing with fireworks, I mean, that's kind of how this got its start.
That's boy behavior. That's
yeah,
not weird.
exactly. You mentioned he came from money. His passion for explosives kind of was fueled by his granddad, who was the patriarch of the family. He's the one where all this money came from. And he bought a lot of the Chinese fireworks and stuff. And then he's not the only one, but like kind of a hobby people would do back then.
That reminds me too. Like, I'm not saying that rockets weren't developed then. Like rockets were used in military action 100 years before.
Right.
So for a long time in military, like the Chinese invented rockets and you'd use rockets to shoot at your enemy and, you know, catch cities on fire. It was just once we invented better munitions, the military purposes kind of tabled rockets and said, well, that's an older technology,
right? And
we're going to use, because they weren't using it for the same purpose, but they did. The technology existed. It just was pretty primitive, and it was just more like, hey, let's go catch that village on fire.
Right? Yeah,
You know?
they were used for more of like flamethrower and munitions. Whereas the way I heard rockets explained as I was looking into this was, you're basically taking a stick of dynamite and opening one end so that the explosion will propel you the other way, which I'd never really thought about. When you're trying to launch into space, you're just sitting on a whole bunch of explosives and they're going off, and hopefully you're aiming the explosion in the correct direction to get you to go towards space and not towards the ground.
Yeah.
Which, that's a real cowboy way to go about traveling anywhere, I think.
It takes a lot. I mean, that was also the thought, I think, from the aeronautical perspective, was knowing the force of gravity, the force of the spin of the earth. I don't know the math of it. I'm an idiot, but
neither did Jack Parsons.
Yeah. Well, there you go. But you just know that, yes, it's going to take an incredible amount of force to break the pole of the earth's orbit, which is what he had to develop the rockets for.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, continue with your story.
I was just saying, like, kind of the beginnings of this is him playing with fireworks in his backyard with his granddad. And then over time, at some point he gets a job at a powder company. And by powder, I mean like gunpowder, that sort of thing. And that's where he starts just learning everything he can about explosives and the chemistry behind all that. He's just into trying to make rockets and make explosives and things like that. In junior high, he makes friends with Ed Foreman, who is one of the founders of JPL Industries later on. Ed is more of the mechanic, like the engineer, whereas Jack is the chemist. He's into explosions. Ed is more like, well, how are we going to turn this
Make
like
useful.
nuts and bolts, put this together? How do we strap it to an airplane? That's kind of where Ed was useful. So just right out of high school, they're going out in the desert and coming up with ways to
Blow
shoot
things up.
rockets up there. Yeah.
And eventually, did he get into Caltech, or he was just friends with guys at Caltech and started working with them?
He kind of just befriended.
Because he didn't go to college, right? Or
No,
he
yeah,
flunked
that,
out, or
yeah, that
couldn't
was
afford
kind
it?
that was kind of a point of contention for him throughout. Is he kept getting into the science community, and a lot of these accredited scientists were like, "Well, you're not bona fide. You don't have a degree or anything. You're just kind of like a hobbyist, basically, or just you play with fireworks. You're not a real scientist." The third guy, the brain, Frank, is the mathematician, and I believe he was the Caltech student. But yeah, Jack and Ed, the mechanical engineer, they did more just like hanging around the campus. They weren't necessarily like students at the school. Yeah.
And so eventually they get kicked off campus, right? Because they're blowing things up.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I don't know if they got kicked off campus, but they got moved to like a building that was condemned or something.
Right.
But it was like
they're
making people nervous.
Yeah, on campus,
and they called them, the guys within his group, they were called the Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
because kind of real quick, people were like, "You're the guys that are gonna blow something up."
Yeah.
Like they're getting pretty crazy. So around campus, they were known as what they were doing, and that would be a good, if they did a movie about him, Suicide Squad. That'd be a great title for it.
It's a pretty cool
That
name.
or Whitesides. I still think Whitesides, just because that's a cool name.
Yeah, it is a cool name. Suicide Squad's a little misleading. It's like the Expendables.
Yeah,
which is not the same thing.
No,
a lot of explosives either way.
Didn't we go see that together when it came out? Expendables.
Probably.
I think we had like a bunch of guys get together and we all went and watched it.
Such a fan of that
It's
franchise. I'm not recommending anybody go see it. I'm just saying it's a good time.
It's what you expect. It's exactly what you expect. 100%.
Exactly.
Good and hard.
They'll deliver. So yeah, ramping up to World War II, the military starts thinking about, we're going to need to get planes to take off faster, like off of aircraft carriers and whatnot. And I don't recall exactly, but they find Jack Parsons, Frank, and Ed, this Suicide Squad, and start talking to them about, word on the street is you guys can help us get our planes to take off faster. At which point, they create the JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratories group, or some people call it
Jack Parsons
Laboratory. Yeah. And so, I mean, you got these guys who aren't particularly into
and I think Parsons owned several patents for this technology.
He already owned the patents.
That's kind of where he made his money, was when the military started contracting for a lot of this. And it was, then he was like, because he had, I could get this wrong, but I think that there was like liquid fuel, but he was one of the first to use like solid fuel.
Right.
And that was a real game changer for being able to build something that was more stable, reliable, accurate.
Yeah. The way I understand it is, part of what you're dealing with is your temperature changes. If I'm going to transport rocket fuel, which is pretty volatile, having it as a solid and a little more predictable is a good thing. Like if I put it on a cart on a train and it's maybe going to go through the desert at night, it's going to get cold and then it's going to get hot later. And and you don't want it shaking around a whole bunch. So you're right. The solid rocket fuel is kind of like the big breakthrough moment for Jack Parsons. So and these government contracts are where all this money starts rolling in for him. And it's the beginning of World War II. And Jack Parsons now has all this money and he buys
the parsonage.
Yeah.
Which, in a nutshell, like if you're going to describe who Jack was and these people, they were wild hippies about 30, 40 years ahead of their time.
Yes. Yeah.
So like some of the stuff that they got into, especially in Pasadena, you don't think it's that crazy, but you got to think like it's the 1930s. Like people are pretty square at that point. Like it's not there. You don't have Jolly West has not opened his clinics yet and started handing out LSD to Charlie Manson and all of his people. So he buys this. Wasn't it the house that he grew up in that his mother had to sell And then, it was his family house, I think.
And if it wasn't, it was in the same neighborhood.
So
yeah,
they came from money, but I think then after the divorce, they
Great
lost
Depression
money.
is the stock market crash is where they lost that.
Okay.
Yeah. But you're right. Then he
goes back and buys the house that he grew up in, which is like a huge 11, 12 bedroom house in Pasadena. And he calls it the Parsonage. And then he starts renting it out. At like something ridiculous, like $1,800 a month in like our money. I forget what it would transfer, but it was a lot of, at the time, what was it, like $300 a month or something?
Yeah. It was
for like a bedroom.
Yeah, you're right. It was, it was like $100 a month, which translates, I believe, to, $1,800 a month. But the thing that got my attention about this was, the ad that he posts is that he wants, artists, eccentrics, like no one mundane.
Yes.
And
he posts an ad trying to get people to rent rooms, but he's very clear about like you cannot be a square kind of Christian Bible thumping,
which is just as counterintuitive as asking Satan to help you with a project.
Yeah, like if you want
I'm
reliable renters,
roommates. I want no one mundane.
He wanted to have a party. He wanted to have a house just full of debauchery and craziness.
By all accounts, that's what he got. It's like
good and
just
hard.
A bunch of people walking around without their pants on.
And that, it didn't happen then, but he was also at the same time, I don't want to say a protege, or like he was close with Crowley.
Yeah.
Aleister Crowley, who was at the time a famous author and also like famous Satan worshiper. Like he was known, he called himself the wickedest man alive or something.
He called himself the beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he was named that because he was like, I don't know, I don't want to go too much in the story, but known for doing things. Yeah. His family early on was like, this guy's not good.
Yeah.
He's a bad guy. But then Parsons develops a relationship with him where he's like calling him his father.
Right. Yeah.
And leads to, running in circles with other people interested in Satanist kind of weird stuff. And Crowley started his own cult, though. Right. OTC, was it?
OTO.
OTO, that's right. And basically, doesn't OTO start operating out of the parsonage? That's kind of their...
Yeah, their home base was there. And that parsonage was, that's where the home base was. And at some point, L. Ron Hubbard shows up.
Well, because he read the ad and he said, "Yes, I'm not mundane at all.
Mundane. I'm a bit of a
a theta myself, or a zeta, whatever they call it." And he moved in and developed. They were like best buddies for a while. Like Jack and L. Ron.
Kind of skipped over the part where
what's his first name?
Actually?
Larry.
Oh,
LRH. I know is what everybody calls him, but
I used to think his name was Elron, like ELRON. Yeah. One word, but it's Ron
Hubbard. That's what I mean. What's the other person? Probably Larry.
Lionel Richie Hubbard. We skipped over the part where Jack gets married.
Yeah, at a young age, too.
Yeah, he gets married. He's like 19. He gets married to a young lady that's 24, so older than him. And then not terribly long into this marriage, he's got this wild ass house, and his wife goes on vacation, and while his wife's on vacation, Jack takes an interest
in Jack.
He's just, it's the parsonage, baby. What do you want? The cat's away, and Jack takes an interest in his wife's younger sister, who at the time,
right?
Yeah, Sarah, or they call her Betty for some reason. So by the time Jack's wife gets back from vacation, Jack's like, "Hey, welcome home. I'm into your sister now." And apparently that wasn't that big of a deal.
No, I think that within the OTO, like they didn't believe in monogamy anyway. So I think she was kind of like, it's getting kind of crazy around here anyway. So
right.
I'm out.
She found another dude, and that kind of shook out.
Wasn't also like one of the guys that moved in, he was an actor who played Frankenstein.
Oh, no, I missed that. Yeah.
You might look it up. He was one of the big OTO guys. And Yeah, he was Frankenstein. I forget the actor's name.
Which one did he play? Was it the grandpa?
No, Frankenstein.
Oh, he played Frankenstein. Okay.
Whoever, well, I have to look that up. I can't remember his name.
It wasn't Fred Gwynn, was it?
Look up Fred Gwynn OTO. But anyway, so lots of eccentric people are getting drawn to this. He gets in a weird relationship with his sister-in-law, who it's an important point that she's underage at the time.
Remember that for later.
Remember that later in the story. That'll come back to haunt Jack.
As it often does for those of you considering dating underage women.
A cautionary tale from Jack Parsons. So
don't try and summon Satan. That's lesson number 1.
Lesson 1.
Lesson 2. Well, stay faithful to your wife. But lesson 2.B, if you are going to step out on your wife, don't do it with an underage woman.
Yeah, or the sister. It was also the sister. Was that him?
I didn't find it yet. I'm still looking.
We'll find it. But eventually, L. Ron Hubbard gets involved. They're like best buddies, and that's important because he talks him into like starting this company where they're going to buy yachts.
Yeah,
and Jack's all about it, and he basically takes his fortune, and then also hooks up with the younger sister.
Yeah,
Betty,
L. Ron says,
and they take off.
He says they got a lot of good deals on yachts in Florida, Jack. Why don't you let me have all your money
and your
and
new
your
girlfriend?
Hot girlfriend.
And he takes off, and Jack believed him until Crowley. When you're getting advice from the most well-known Satanist, who's like, I think you might have been
Hey,
had.
I've got some weird ideas, but you really just give all your money to that dude?
Like, can you imagine that conversation when Crowley pulls him aside and goes, I know I'm into like all the stealing and the murdering and the raping and all that, but I think it's all going wrong.
Kind of makes me think of like Will Ferrell playing Frank the Tank and him pulling you aside and be like, bro, you got to take it easy. You're getting out of hand.
I thought you were going to say when he's playing Satan with the Garth Brooks.
Yeah.
That's a good one too.
That is good. But yeah, I like the idea.
I think it's a Fender.
Yeah, the way I heard the story of Parsons, it's like it often is when you feel like you got taken for a ride. He gives his money to Hubbard, and he's kind of like, you guys have a safe trip. And about the time the car rounds the corner, he's like, I have a bad feeling about this.
Huh. And then a few weeks go by. And so then he somehow tracks down Hubbard after it's obvious that he's just taking his money. He's not giving it back. And then he's threatening to take him to the police. And I think that there's some communication back and forth. And
Very little. There's actually one story of somehow Jack gets L. Ron on the phone.
No, but remember, he summons. That's how he gets him back. He summons the devil to help him again.
Before that, I think he gets L. Ron on the phone, and he's kind of like, hey, man, did you take my money? And L. Ron Hubbard's kind of like, no, everything's fine. And one of the other people in the parsonage overhears Jack being just such a shame, like just such a sucker for it. He's kind of like, oh yeah, okay, I know, man. Yeah, you're the best. You'd never do that. It was like L. Ron Hubbard had this weird power over Jack Parsons.
Yeah.
Like, and I think, all these different little accounts I hear of Jack Parsons, there are the instances where he wants to believe stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He wants it to be true, which serves him in some ways. He gets a rocket to take people, to the space, but to the space. It's like
space.
Like the YouTube.
The vacuum of space.
But at the same time, it's kind of like, Kokomo for a short time sold cars. And,
I didn't know that, but it doesn't surprise me at all.
And
I bet there's a lot of things you could say about Kokomo. For a short time, he did this. He sold knives.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Encyclopedias, cars.
He told me that car salesmen are actually some of the easiest people to sell cars to. And it's kind of the same thing that makes them a good car salesman, makes them
I could see that.
easily taken. It's like they want to believe what is being sold,
Mhm.
you know? And I think Jack Parsons is that same dynamic. It's that thing of like, I want to believe things are possible. And I really want to believe that L. Ron Hubbard is the genius that I think that he is. And I really want to believe that we're good friends and he wouldn't do me wrong. And as soon as he talks to L. Ron Hubbard and just hears his voice on the other end of the line, he's thinking like, yeah, no, that's right. No, he's not taking advantage of
But
me.
that's
Okay.
cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
Like that's, everybody has it to different levels. But yeah, it's sometimes really smart people, they're the best at convincing themselves of their own delusions.
Yeah.
And they're,
right.
they're the hardest to pull out of it because they're so creative at thinking of new ways to buy their own, nonsense.
L. Ron Hubbard's in Florida. He's got the yacht. He's got Jack Parsons' girlfriend. At some point, Jack Parsons has got to get to Florida, and he's going to go to the hotel and seance this to an end.
But talk about when he causes the storm.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
But he's not in Florida when it happens, is he?
Yeah,
He's down there and he can't find him.
Jack finally goes, no, I think L. Ron Hubbard is taking me for a ride. I better get down to Florida and get to the bottom of this. And he walks around the docks asking, you guys seen any
A bunch of nice yachts with a pretty young lady on it and kind of weird looking.
Yeah, I'm looking for a cult starter.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend. And anybody seen anybody that fits that description? And at some point, a sailor goes, we just sold a bunch of yachts to this fellow with ginger hair and a young lady. They took off. So Parsons is very upset about this, and he holds up in his hotel room in Florida for a few days. And he
calls on his buddy.
Who do you call? He holds a seance in the hotel room, and to the best of our knowledge,
it causes this. Does it cause? I don't know.
A storm
happens
in or around the very same time.
Shortly after Jack Parsons asks Satan to please bring Hubbard and his, girl back.
This huge
storm
swell
takes them out.
Yeah, the masts of the ship and pushes them up onto some rocks to where they got to call up the Coast Guard or whoever to bring them back to shore. And there on the beach waiting for him is Jack Parsons.
Yeah.
To where he's like, I'm going to press charges. I want my money back. All these things. At which point Betty says, not so fast. Remember our little, our little tryst?
She threatens to have him arrested for basically statutory rape.
Right. And then all of a sudden he's like,
fair enough.
Yeah. Yachts.
How much of the money you got left, Hubbard? It's like $3,000 or $4,000. And he's like, all right, we'll just call it a day.
Yeah, it's like 10% of the money that L. Ron Hubbard took him for.
I heard different accounts. I heard someone say he took $20,000. I heard someone say he took $400,000.
I heard the same two disparate numbers. Yeah.
I feel like it was more like 400,000 because he ends up giving him like that 10%, like just like, hey, here's a few grand. But Jack was just pretty much like, all right, what's done is done. That makes more sense if it was his whole fortune because he was making a fortune off the contracts he had with the military. He had $400,000 easily.
Yeah, I understood he sold off assets, like he sold his house to do this yacht venture. And to me it sounds more like along the lines of $400,000 even in that time's
so
money.
I'm definitely not encouraging that you ask the devil to help you do anything, but seems like devil really pulled through for him on this one.
If the devil's on board with anything, no pun intended with the yachts, but revenge.
He's
down
that's
for
his
that.
thing.
Yeah. So, but that doesn't stop L. Ron Hubbard and Betty from seeing each other. I mean, they kind of carry on, right?
Yeah, and I think they were together for a while after that. And I think that I don't know what his relationship with Hubbard was after that, but I think that was kind of a break. Like, all right, we're parting ways, even though he's not happy about it. But I think Jack did kind of just chalk that up to like, all right, well, that is what it is. Let's just move on.
Lesson learned.
Yeah.
Don't give all of your money away to L. Ron Hubbard.
So what happens from there? By this point, he starts to transition out of the military contracts, or he's not doing that as much.
Yeah.
And his career kind of just start to go down like a bit. Like he's mostly just working with movie studios,
Right.
doing like on-set explosions and technical stuff. And he's also like, just as a munitions expert, he's at some point being like contacted about like explosive cases. Like he's at a courtroom at some point about a bombing. And they're like talking about this suspected bombing, and he actually takes the bomb into the courtroom and tells them like, yes, this is a real bomb right here. And there's pictures of him holding it up. And then I don't know if he explodes it in the desert later, but then after the fact, everyone's like, oh my God, that was a real bomb. He was walking around the jury with a real bomb. Yeah. And, that's Jack.
Bit of a wild card, that Jack.
Well, he probably, if you don't light it on fire, it's not going to blow anyone up.
Yeah, the connection there is pretty wild. It
was a police officer in the case, right? That was suspected of murdering another police officer.
Yeah, it was like an internal affairs investigation, and they were indicting these police officers that they suspected of taking out some other police officers by way of explosion. And you're right, they have Jack come in as a expert witness.
Well, and another thing that we didn't really touch on that I think played a key role in the parsonage and a lot of this was that all of these people were doing a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
Like there was, Crowley was like an insane heroin addict.
Yes. Yeah.
Parsons, like they were all, I don't know about Hubbard. I mean, I don't know. He was, not into that later in life, but drugs definitely played a big role, and maybe some strange behavior and not the most logical decision making on
don't say
most of these people.
Yeah, it is kind of like you alluded to. It is what I think is like the first nuggets of what would become the hippie movement 25 years later.
That same area. If you said 1969 this was happening, you'd think, this sounds about right.
This is like just before the beatniks became the beatniks, and then on to what became like hippies and counterculture. And then as I was looking for who Frankenstein was in that OTO group, I'm just kind of looking at the list of members that they had in the Ordo Templi Orientis. And it's a lot of what you'd think you would find in that kind of a group, like lots of psychologists, lots of ufologists, lots of people that are into like kind of the outskirts of sciences. And so it's just people that are kind of open to new ideas. So this is like a pretty progressive culture at that time.
So let's talk a little bit about Moonchild, the Crowley book. So this is where I think it kind of transitions, that Crowley wrote a book called Moonchild, right?
And I don't know a whole lot about that.
Well, I know that the gist of it was some sort of weird occult thing where they were going to, I don't know, it sounds so crazy, but it was like basically like a miraculous, conjure some sort of miraculous conception kind of thing, but of the moons, like some goddess of the moons. I'm butchering all this. I don't know, except I know it was weird. I know that I looked into the book. The book was like not a great book, but it was a terrible book. It was about Satan. No, but the point was Jack kind of became obsessed with this idea, and he put in another ad, didn't he, for like, somehow, what's the redheaded woman's name that he meets up with eventually?
Marjorie.
With green eyes.
Marjorie with a C. Cameron, I believe.
Yeah.
Ooh, good job, Dave.
I think he placed an ad for like a...
he conjured her up, man. He had, for like 40 days, he had seances.
There wasn't something that he didn't post another ad for?
I don't think so, because this was like... And L. Ron Hubbard was involved in this too. Like, went to the desert with Jack for a while to like, he was trying to summon this girl into existence. And it was after L. Ron Hubbard had stole Betty, the girlfriend, that Jack goes out in the desert and he's like holding these seances to... But
she was very, like, it was for a very specific, like a redheaded woman with green eyes. And that's right, because L. Ron Hubbard had green eyes too, and he was a ginger.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, eventually she shows up at his
Yeah.
doorstep.
He comes back from his seance excursion, and here's this striking redheaded woman in his house.
And they hook up, and like,
yeah.
The rest is history. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, she was with him till the end.
Yeah. What happened after that?
Well, you're right. His career kind of gets rocky.
But what was my point with Moonchild? Like they thought that she might be like the like they tried to do something like that. Like she might be the one.
Yeah.
I think that evil Mary or something.
Yeah. It wasn't clear to me that whether he was trying to manifest this woman so she could bring this Moonchild to the earth, like give birth to this Moonchild, or if he was just bummed out that.
But she fit the description from the book, though, as far as that person.
Yeah, like the very vibrant red hair, green eyes. And that woman started her own cult later on. I mean, she's a pretty wild character.
She's pretty versed in cults at that point. So
yeah, she's
start your own.
Exactly. Once you figure out the bare bones, the fundamentals, I think you could do it.
I think she's still alive today too. Like she became a very well-known, like avant-garde artist / personality in the Pasadena area. And
she passed away in 95.
Oh, did she? I thought she was still alive.
Nope. 95.
Either way, even long after Jack was gone,
she
was well known, and she was always kooky and always just way, way out there. So eventually there is a conspiracy that I'd have to do more research to get into it, but some people think that Jack was murdered.
Right.
Eventually the Rocket Man blows himself up. He's, working on, again, I think it's part of his contracting with like movie sets and like explosives, not specifically for rockets. And he's working on one and it blows his face off, like half his face off and his arm. And it reminds me in the description of that, of like Two-Face from, Dark Knight. Like you look at it and it's like, half of that's not there.
Did you see that Breaking Bad?
Oh yeah. Gus Fring. Yeah. Same kind of thing. Like, it blows up and it's not good. And what was he quoted as saying? Like his last words were like, I'm not finished.
Not finished yet. Yeah.
I'm not finished.
Yeah.
And the people that think there might've been a conspiracy to kill him, a lot of it had to do with just how sloppy it was. Like they were like, he never would have made those mistakes. Like he was a rocket guy,
It's weird though, because I've heard that he was a meticulous chemist, but then we're talking about a guy that is partying his behind off every night and coming in, just like, 5 o'clock shadow at 10 o'clock in the morning without his shirt on to report for work to make rockets. That is a
hell of a thing. So he is by day, rocket scientist, by night, Satan worshiping sex cult, crazy drug
living
addict,
like Keith Richards style life. Yeah. And he was having he would have duels with his buddy. Like they would shoot their pistols at each other, live pistols. They would shoot at each other. Like, if you and I would square off, say 25 yards away, and we just would see who could get closer to each other's toes, just firing rounds off. So those sort of stories, I'm going, well, I don't know. How careful was this guy?
I guess if you're...
And you were in a group called the Suicide Squad. So I don't know if he was meticulous or not. Because
you were summoning Satan at age 13. So how careful could you be? It's a good point.
But you did survive a lot of explosions up to that point.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But you're right. I had not heard until today about there's a report that the explosion was from under him. Like
somebody might have planted it under the house.
Yeah. Kind of like, if you were CSI and you said they broke the window from the outside, that sort of thing. Like this explosion came from under him instead of in the room that he was at. So there is there's speculation that somebody planted a bomb under his home laboratory.
Well, it was a crazy life. I think it was 37 when he died. And so all of that being said, NASA, well, we didn't even get into like Werner von Braun and like
Yeah.
a lot, he had a lot of connections at a young age with all these other space people, even space Nazis like von Braun, who went on to run NASA, even though he was a Nazi. It was a bit of the whole Jack Parsons thing, like the military, they knew how crazy he was, like as far as his lifestyle, all this stuff. They needed the technology so much they were willing to look the other way and go, we just need the rockets. This guy knows how to make the rockets. We don't care if he worships Satan at night and does a lot of drugs and stuff. Just make us the rockets. And so he's kind of like a black sheep of the space program. They don't like to even admit that he was, doing what he was doing. And so they decided to name a crater after him on the moon. But they didn't make a crater that you'll ever see. They picked a crater on the far back dark side of the moon and said, all right, Jack, there's your crater that no one is ever going to see.
He's on the butthole of the moon. Yeah.
That's tragic.
That's what you get.
And I just picture like Satan just grinning and like, yes, this Jack Parsons crater. There you go, Mr. Parsons, on the dark side of the moon. It's sad. But
I promised you a legacy.
There it is.
And a legacy you shall have.
And I think that's why we don't hear his name a lot. I mean, I think that the government and the military and the space program, they've all like, he's a brilliant part of the history that they absolutely don't want you to know everything we just said.
Yeah. Some of the names of the projects that they had in the outset of these space programs and some of the names of those first few rockets and things have ties into the occult.
Which also
because Parsons
of the
is
Nazis.
the one naming them. Yeah.
No, but also because of the Nazis, because a lot of these Nazi scientists like von Braun, the Nazis were into the same thing. They were into all of these occult rituals. Hitler was a occult nut. Like he had all wrapped up into his party. And, that's back to the original thing we were talking about, is like these ideas and like what exactly is going on here? Like, why pray to like some, occult thing? Why do that? Like, what belief systems, what role is that playing? And it is strange to me that, like I think that's partly why these guys got along, because they're into the same thing, but the same thing is weird, evil stuff, not like good, virtuous stuff, Why exactly? I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a good long game to be playing. I mean, it's back to that Norm Macdonald bit.
Yeah.
Of all the choices, this seems
Worship
like
the guy that's telling you he's not God.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a few years back, a bunch of news stories like Marilyn Manson got Me Too'd. I don't know if you remember that. His ex-girlfriend came out and they did a whole bit where she's like, he was like awful to her and made her do all this. And it's like, he literally told you he's the Antichrist.
Yeah.
Like that was his thing
said
forever.
He's a bad guy.
He was very clear about, I don't like good things. I like bad things.
Yeah.
And now you're surprised that he doesn't hold the door for you when you
right. Yeah.
walk through.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of sympathy for her, but yeah, it's, he didn't hide it. He didn't hide the ball.
I started dating this gangster rapper, and turns out
he had a gun. And then we were at the mall, and there was a fight. And I know it's what he talks about all the time. I just never thought it actually happened.
He cheated on me. You know that, right?
Oh gosh, God bless him. Well, Jack Parsons. I'm working on the song for him that I haven't finished yet, but it's going to be a good one. It's probably not one that like only people that know his history, which I don't know if you've asked around, but nobody knows his history. Everybody that say, who Jack Parsons is, they have no idea. And then when you start explaining the history, they're completely like, oh my God, no idea.
Yeah. I didn't know anything about him until like last episode. You kind of
I could tell you didn't know.
Yeah.
When you said, I
don't know anything about this. That was my giveaway. Yeah.
I don't know why he's not more well known. Definitely played a big role in our country's history.
Well, I mean, that patent with the solid rocket fuel that's the beginnings of the space program.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, That's what
He
that's
never,
what got us or did not get us to the moon.
he never got to see a rocket go to space, I don't believe, but he definitely played a big role in it. And I think he played a big role in just like breaking through that barrier of, like we were saying, like people just didn't think that was even possible.
Yeah.
And he was the guy that was just like, yeah, hold my beer, I can do this. And then he did it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think sometimes, like if you didn't have that, like how long would it have taken before somebody else came along that was that crazy that would just be like, yeah, let me just show you how we didn't do this. I mean, who knows? It could have changed history.
Yeah. Do you think, I mean, it just brought to mind like Elon Musk with electric cars, because every manufacturer now is rolling out electric vehicles, which if Tesla
But he was the cowboy. Yeah, he had to be.
If Tesla hadn't kicked the door down.
I've heard a lot of people say, long term, we'll have to see, but they anticipate Tesla going under eventually, but owing that, always being like, well, yeah, we wouldn't have what we have today without them.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, I don't know enough about any of that to say whether or not Tesla's going to see the whole thing through, but I do think that that was the breaking point to where, like, if Tesla had not become popular in the last 3 years, we wouldn't be seeing everybody coming out with electric vehicles.
There's a market reason for doing it. I mean, why is everyone making EVs right now? Part of it is because of government influence to make EVs, but truthfully, it's because they're awesome and fast, and people are going to pay way more for them because they're awesome and fast. Mm-hmm. So, Ford Lightning's selling for over $100,000 when MSRP is like 60. That's why Ford is making Lightnings. It's because they know people are going to pay $100,000 for their truck. But you always owe it to Elon. Will always be the guy that, he moved that forward, whether or not Tesla makes it in the long run or not, who knows? But I was going to say about that. I totally lost my train of thought.
That's not to say that Elon's doing any kind of weird cult stuff. I don't think
I've
that I know.
thought that like because of SpaceX, it would be really interesting to ask Elon what he thinks of Jack Parsons.
Yeah.
And if you say,
well, get him on here.
Yeah, get him on. I'll try my best.
Send him a mug.
Which also will be on the store eventually. Once we get the store up, we'll get some Conspiracy Dad mugs. Anything else on Jack? Does that pretty much wrap it up?
Oh, yeah. I mean, kind of like we were talking about earlier off air, there's plenty out there once you start digging. I think just his tie-in with L. Ron Hubbard, and this is all predating Scientology, is just wild to me that you go, we're talking about a guy who was a fictional writer of science fiction books, a guy who swindled Jack Parsons out of a lot of money. I mean, has a real track record of being a dishonest guy. And then somehow manages to shake all that off and start this religion or cult, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, he writes Dianetics, and then I think Dianetics was so popular that it kind of started to turn into its own religion. And then he realized that if he was a religion, he wouldn't have to pay taxes, and so he becomes a religion, and then you get Tom Cruise.
Thank goodness for that.
I listened to that Lex Friedman podcast with about Scientology on the way back.
Oh yeah,
from Missouri today. It was a good one, but it was also it's just sad. It's just tragic that so many people get wrapped up in crazy. Especially him talking about even today, like talking about. That's Leah Remini's big hang up with Tom Cruise. As much as I love Tom Cruise as an actor, is like kind of has slave labor working for him. Mm-hmm. And like these people that aren't getting paid anything or $50 a week. And they run his production company. They run, he's a huge franchise. It's all wrapped up in there. And you'd think, what the heck? I love his movies. I love the movies, but I sure hope you're paying your people well for the things you're doing. Yeah. But it doesn't sound like he is. Sounds like he's kind of got, I don't know, the way she would say it is, it's like servants that just kind of do whatever you want them to do. Wish I had some. I wouldn't be mean to you. I just need help, like, getting the
Got
lawn
a lot of
mowed
things
and
to get done.
do the dishes and
You got 5 kids,
Yeah.
and a business to run.
All right. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode. Thank you, everybody, for listening, for watching. We are the Conspiracy Dad podcast, and please like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode. I don't even know what that's going to be yet. We'll think of something good. Please continue to put in the comments if you have don't say obvious things like moon landing or 9/11. Obviously, that's going to be coming up eventually. But if you have some interesting conspiracy theories, send us the links. We'd love to check it out. And thank you for watching. Cheers.